Oh, welcome in live to a Maize and Brew six-pack. I would say a special edition. It was going to be enjoyable. You and I, Andy Bailey from maizeandbrew.com, my hetero life mate, we were going to log on here, do what we do, preview Northwestern, a 4-6 team versus a 5-5 team struggling for bowl eligibility, and we were going to do it with enthusiasm. But things have a way of changing. Do they not, my friend? And we have a great episode now to talk about what could end up being the greatest Michigan recruiting class of all time. How the hell are you feeling, brother?
Well, I went from one sad beer to two happy beers. I donned the shades, which I only don for special occasion.
Yes.
And that is because right before we logged on, 5-star commit quarterback Bryce Underwood committed to Michigan, flipping his commitment from LSU, completely changing the trajectory of the next 4 years at Michigan and probably our lives.
Not to oversell this, but my life has changed and become better now that he is in it. And look, really caught me and I think you off guard and a lot of people off guard as early as last week. We were looking and reading some of the writing on the wall and thinking, now this isn't happening. He was turned off by how public some of the mentions of money had been. And then I think Brian Kelly maybe did us a favor by just being Brian Kelly and just reminding everyone of who he is. Not only just kind of their season also going down the tubes without a national championship to lean on, by the way, but also just a really bad look on the sidelines. You start to hear some murmurings, and then all of a sudden today, I was at an Applebee's when the news broke. And I mean, shout out to the wonderful people at Applebee's for putting up with me just screaming at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. But it was worth the scream because, as you mentioned, this is program altering. This completely shifts the trajectory. Will it remove the bad taste of a bad season on the field? No, but what a much needed win for this program.
Yeah, it's like having an undercooked pot roast, but you're about to have the best dessert of all time. It's like, it's okay. So I can get through this, but I know what's coming next. So completely just changes the outlook of everything, makes you look forward with hope again, a little bit of optimism, because now this Michigan recruiting class, even outside of Bryce Underwood, is getting a wave of momentum because of what his commitment, the gravity it brings to the program.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not just the Bryce Underwood commitment. It's what this does and how this reverberates. We're already hearing about, Derek Meadows, the 4-star wide receiver at LSU, who is committed to go play with Bryce Underwood. Already starting to hear some rumblings there. And I mean, look, this Andrew Balbaloa is locked in. You've already got 2 5-stars at the top of this. And if I were to build out and rebuild a struggling offense, I'd probably start quarterback, left tackle. I think that would be literally 1 and 2. And you've got the 2 best in the country. The number 1 overall recruit, Bryce Underwood, if we haven't mentioned that yet. Not just positionally, overall. So you're talking generational. This is as good as it can get to restart and to find what the next iteration of this Michigan offense is going to look like. It's huge, man. I mean, I just don't think that there's words that we can say that can properly express just how big this is.
We're about to talk about the seniors playing against Northwestern for senior day, the winningest class in Michigan history. This feels like the 2021 class, the JJ, the Donovan. It feels like that class because that's what a 5-star quarterback can do. And I mean, not to mention, this is the last time a 5-star came in was JJ McCarthy. So it's easy to connect there. But just on paper, the physical traits, like Bryce Underwood is ahead as a senior than JJ McCarthy was as a senior in high school.
Yeah, and I know everybody's excited about Jaden Davis. I was as well. This is a different type of prospect. Jaden Davis, really not that much of a scrambler and not that big. So you probably don't want a guy like that running a lot. This is a real dual threat prospect at 6'3.5", so probably 6'2". Pretty much the same measurements coming in that Jaden Daniels was listed at, except a little bit heavier, a little further ahead.
Yeah, he's like 215.
Yeah, I mean, his frame is already there. So think current Jaden Daniels. Now, can he have the accuracy, the pocket presence? We'll see. But at his high school in Michigan, so staying home, stepped in immediately as a starter his freshman year and won a state title. He's got 48 career starts, upwards of 165 touchdowns accounted for. He's extremely young for his age. He'll turn 20 in his 3rd year. So, I mean, still just a lot of room to grow. The ceiling is massive. Everything about this is if you had to design a quarterback prospect in a lab, this is what you would come up with. And man, I'm over the moon about this because we've always kind of wanted a quarterback like this. Like, oh, why don't we just go get a guy like that? They don't grow on trees is why. Like, these guys are extremely rare that can basically be as great a threat with their arm as they are with their legs.
It's the modern quarterback. I mean, the comparison on 247 Sports is Vince Young. Like, and this isn't just like a blog site. I'm going to do a film breakdown this weekend of Bryce Young, so be on the lookout for that on maizeandbrew.com. From what I've seen, though, man, it fits the bill. Like, you're not the number one overall player in a class just by happenstance, or it's not just like a couple things or who you know or this or no, it's real. And like, you can just see the natural talent, how easy it comes to him, the command he has back there. And I couldn't be more excited, man. This is a program shifting kind of commitment.
Yeah, man. And good to have Yankee, Josh, Olivia in the comments here. Olivia talking about the Instagram post showing him as a little kid talking about Michigan. You just sent that to me. I mean, that'll make you choke up. Also very well executed. Yeah, he's got an Instagram guy.
Yeah, that was so well. I want that guy. I mean, I was jealous. I was like, this is good. Like, he's doing better than the Michigan football guy this year.
It was good stuff, man. So yeah, we've kind of talked about what it is on the field. We've talked a little bit about what it can mean off the field. And yeah, this is probably going to push Michigan just into a different stratosphere. You and I were talking, if we can finish top 15, this immediately moves us up to number 9. Some other movement that we'll kind of discuss here. Another flip, Elijah Dotson, cornerback, flipping from Pittsburgh to Michigan at 4 stars, and then a decommit on the defensive line. So with that shuffling, Michigan ends up at about 9, but we were kind of alluding to it, like other dominoes are going to fall from this.
Absolutely. I mean, 4-star running back, Javian Osborne, he's been projected to go to Texas kind of lightly, that Michigan's been in the race, reacted to the Bryce Underwood thing very positively online, just kind of side-eyeing like, oh, that's what they're doing at Michigan.
Yeah.
And a quarterback can have that kind of influence on a class, and not to mention having Andrew Babalola, the left tackle, also be 10 toes down on the team in the class. Like, that just rings bells everywhere across the country. So we're going to continue to see more of this. And the Elijah Dotson piece, honestly, might have been kind of the first indicator, because he goes to the same high school and plays on the same team as Bryce Underwood.
Yeah, absolutely. So that could have been it. Brian Kelly just erupting on one of his players on the sideline probably didn't help.
I love him. I love him so much, man. Thank you.
Be you, Brian Kelly. Just keep being you, because now we might have an Underwood to Meadows combination, which is just a level of athleticism and electricity that we haven't had from quarterback to receiver since I can remember. I mean, like, the Henne to Manningham moments felt pretty electric, but Chad Henne is no Bryce Underwood as far as an athlete.
Navarre to Braylon, that doesn't do it for you?
I mean, the Braylon part did.
I mean, I guess J.J. Roman was the closest thing.
Yeah, J.J. Roman had some electricity, had some real juice. This could be greater than that. And I mean, with Andrew Marsh and Andrew Olesh and some of these other guys that we have committed as well, like Olesh in particular, the tight end who was maybe looking at Oregon a little bit. So I think this is going to help lock down both of the Andrews, keep those guys in the fold, maybe bring another receiver, bring a running back in, and this thing could finish top 5. You know, it could finish at number 1 when you have 2 cornerstone 5s like that.
It's in the mix, man, but it's right where it needs to be. It has some cornerstone pieces. You were talking to me off air. I'd like to see maybe an edge get involved in this class. If not in the class, then definitely in the transfer portal, which is also going to be a huge factor here next year. But this gets you excited about like some of the true freshmen already on the team, like the Hogan Hansons. This past week, Sharon Moore on Inside Michigan Football was saying Micah Kapana is going to have a package built in for him because he has just been explosive in practice. So now you have Jordan Marshall, and Benjamin Hall in the backfield moving forward. It's just like everything is just like when it rains, it pours, man. It's all coming at us now.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a jolt of positivity that this program desperately needed, because like we said earlier, Michigan Northwestern, we could get to a bowl game. It'll be the Duke's Mayo Bowl at best. To all of a sudden there is real momentum, there's real excitement, there's real enthusiasm about where this program is heading. And now they just have to prove it on the field. Obviously, there's still a lot of corrections. I asked you this off air, and I think it's worthy, it's podcast worthy. Is there a possibility that this lowers expectations for the Northwestern Ohio State finish, but raises expectations for year 2 of Sharon Moore?
I think it raises expectations both ways. Like you can't just go lay an egg against Northwestern and then have to fight for eligibility against Ohio State. Like, no, you still got to win this weekend, no matter what. Take care of business. It's a trophy game. Like you can't just rest on your laurels. I don't think they will. Like, I mean, it's important. And can you just imagine the momentum, like getting this commitment, getting the win this week, guaranteeing a bowl game, guaranteeing those practices that early enrollees will be able to participate in as well.
Good
So
point.
get him in on campus in 13 days after National Signing Day, get the practices in, and just already go ahead and start laying the foundation for next year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on this one. It'd be like if you're an actor and you're horrible at acting, but you're really good on like the press tour. It's like, well, you see that press docket? Like you've got a really good interview presence.
Like Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah. Shots fired at Michael B. Jordan for no reason. But yeah, like, but terrible actor, like that's useless. Like go watch the movie. Is the movie good or not? And the product on the field has not been good. So no, this isn't a pass for Sharon Moore and staff. This doesn't necessarily get you a bye both on this weekend or for next season. Like it still has to amount to wins, but showing that you can recruit and getting this kind of talent into the building is a piece of the puzzle, man. There's no denying it. And you're going to have outstanding clay with which to make bricks with, and like, what can you build with all of these bricks that you amass? All you can do in the offseason is win in recruiting and transfer and, off the field stuff. And they are winning with a lot of this off the field stuff right now.
Yeah. And it, kind of tracks with Jim Harbaugh in his second year at Michigan with his first full class. He landed the number 1 overall player in the class in Rashawn Gary. So if you're going to follow the footsteps, it's a good way to do it. So I just love all the momentum that's coming right now, man, especially after on Monday, you and I kind of talked about like, hey, it's kind of trending down. We don't know. It's kind of a coin flip. And now it just seems like it was written in stone, like it was destined to be told. And now the wave of commitments coming around it because it's flip season. Like it's all over the place. Like Ivan Taylor officially flipped from Michigan to Bama. You mentioned Jalen Williams, but now the pendulum kind of swings back. And I'm excited to see who else falls in the fold because especially offensively, there's probably some names we're not even thinking about right now.
Yeah. This really opens the door too. And people that we weren't even talking with or had conversations with as a program before, now we're going to be like, hey, by the way, I remember you'd offered back in October. I'm interested in having a conversation now that Bryce Underwood's going to be the guy throwing. Shout out to Tyterian, Emperor Headshot, and Josh in the comments here. Josh has a good question. Is there concern that Sharon Moore follows in the pattern of Harbaugh where he doesn't play Bryce because he's a freshman? I don't think that's the situation in this case. I was just reading the 247 article about his commitment, and he's pretty ready to play. Like, whereas Jaden Davis was different. Like we were like, the frame isn't there. We're not hearing great things about the decision making. This guy's won a ton at the high school level. He's 6'3.5", 215 right now, and then he's got the offseason to add another 10 pounds, so he can come in at 225, 230 if he's really dedicated. That's a different animal. I think this probably is your starting quarterback next season. You would want to bring in some type of competition or bring back Jaden Davis or I already forgot about Davis Warren. I already forgot about him. He's already an afterthought in my mind. Alex Orji, bring back those guys to provide some competition to maybe push him and make sure that he's in the right spot. And having Davis Warren would be good depth there. No, I think he starts as a freshman.
I think so as well. But this also makes me think a couple things. One, Kirk Campbell's gone. But two, who is coming in? Like, who's the name? Like, because it seems that was one of Bryce Underwood's biggest reservations was like, how are they going to – what's my development plan look like? How are they going to get me to the Heisman, to the NFL and all that? And obviously it's not Kirk Campbell because we all have eyes and can see that. And so does Bryce Underwood and his family. So I'm kind of looking around the country like, okay, who's the guy? Who's it going to be? Who's moving in here? And with a bunch of like potential like staffs turning over across the country, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, we're doing our distressed assets pod here as soon as the season ends, and we'll look into coaches, position coaches, transfers, all that good stuff. Definitely want to dive in and see who might be out there. I mean, I know a lot of offensive names, but a lot of those big offensive names that I'm thinking of are likely NFL candidates. Yeah. At the college level, I think you got to dig a little bit deeper and get a little bit more creative and get somebody that's up and coming, because you also just don't want a one-year rental. You'd like to bring in somebody that's with Bryce Underwood for at least the 3 years that he's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you might be right calling your shot there that likely they have
If
somebody in
Kurt
mind.
Campbell comes back, I will riot.
I mean, I'll pass out the pitchforks, brother.
I mean, yeah, this is the guy that was like, all right, first play with Jack Tuttle. Hasn't started a game in a few years. Far hash shot of Marion Walker, 2-man concept. Let's go.
Let's
Like,
go.
give me a break. No, has to be gone. I'm excited to see who they bring in because honestly, like it would be hard to be a downgrade.
Yeah, bring you or I in there. I mean, my
I'm ready to go. Call me
my
up.
NCAA skills on Xbox are like pretty strong right now.
I've watched some YouTube videos.
I think we're qualified here. Shout out to Happy Bradley, best recruiting class in Michigan history. It has a chance.
Trending
It
that
has
way.
a real chance at doing it, which is kind of wild. We knew it was going to be good. We knew we would like it. We felt pretty confident foundational class too, but now this goes above and beyond. This is the kind of class on which you build your entire home on. Like this is that kind of foundation. What do you think this does for Jaden Davis? I made the prediction several weeks ago because before we even thought Bryce Underwood was a possibility, that I didn't think Jaden Davis ever started a game at Michigan. That is now looking like a real possibility. What do you think there?
Oh, he's heading south. Whether it's in the December window or the spring window, he's probably moving back to North Carolina. Probably go to North Carolina and be a quarterback. They need some help there, but
yeah,
the writing's on the wall. Like, I mean, it sucks because Jaden Davis has been like he was a big piece of last year's class. He's probably a big part of the recruitment of Bryce Underwood. I mean, the players are often the best sell of anything. People forget that, but it's those relationships that really sell a player. And so he probably helped out in that aspect. It's like just how the cookie crumbles. It's a meritocracy.
It is a meritocracy, and yeah, I just can't imagine coming in like if he hasn't even earned a look this year with what we've seen at the quarterback position. If you couldn't get a look this year, next year with Bryce Underwood coming in, I just don't know that you're going to surpass him. You've got a long road to travel to get past where Bryce Underwood is right now with what I've seen. And I don't like to do a lot of high school tape and stuff because I don't know how good their competition is. Bryce Underwood plays in the same league as my stepdad. Like I have seen the teams that he's played. I know who he's played. I know who he's lost to, who he's beat. He just got knocked out of the tournament that Central Catholic's still in, by the way. Beast of a team. But yeah, like I feel pretty confident in judging this kid's tape. So I'm excited to dive in. I know you're going to dive in and do a film study on it. I think that you and I will know exactly what we have coming, but just from what I've seen already, I'm like, yeah, different animal.
Yeah, I mean, you see his just build, his length. He's 215, has the room to put on 20 more pounds effortlessly. I expect him to early enroll, so he'll be on campus within a month, less than that. Like
That's
it's
insane.
it's nuts. Everything changed just by a 17-year-old, or I think it's a 17-year-old just being like, yeah, I'm going to Michigan instead. I'm going to stay close to home.
Imagine like telling your wife or girlfriend, just be like, hang on, I can't talk right now. A 17-year-old's coming to somewhere that I like. Just like, what?
I went upstairs to talk to my wife, and she was telling me news about like my brother-in-law and things like this. And, you know, she's getting a new job and all this. And I'm like, Bryce Underwood committed. He's coming to Michigan. And she's just like, whom? And I'm like, well, let me tell you.
Yeah, promoted at work. Anyway, this 17-year-old chose a school I like.
Yes, check this out. Watch his highlights.
Oh, man. All right. So we kind of glossed over it, but we also had 4-star cornerback Elijah Dotson flip his commitment from Pitt to Michigan. So add him in, and then we lose 4-star defensive lineman Jalen Williams, looking like Jeremiah Owusu-Boateng, who just canceled his trip to Texas. He's been a Michigan lean for a while now. I would expect that one to fall soon, a 4-star linebacker who we're definitely calling OB for short.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just a strong nickname. It's the chariot driver from the Hateful Eight, underrated Tarantino movie. Yeah, so excited for him. The Derek Meadows kid from LSU, the 4-star wide receiver who's now looking like Michigan might be the spot. A 4-star edge rusher from Ohio State who just decommitted. Now he's been in close contact with Michigan. So we'll keep you updated. Most definitely come over to Out of the Blue, all the Maize and Brew podcast. We'll keep you updated as all this stuff breaks. But this is just great news. I think this is without a doubt the biggest commitment we've ever covered, certainly like this close after the commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because Most of like the McCarthy excitement took place, I remember, like right around 2020. So it was just like, well, wasn't as excited. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like right before signing day. It wasn't the number one overall player in the class, especially at a time when the team is like just teetering, just very middling.
Yeah.
Like, which way is it going to swing? And then this kind of recruit you think is going to push it to the positive side and start trending upward again.
And trending upward, we are as we head into Northwestern at 5-5 to take on the 4-6 Northwestern Wildcats. I don't know how many mid bowls we've had this year. Michigan's been a part of several. I don't even know if this is a mid bowl. This is below mid. Northwestern scrapping for their playoff lives, needing to win out to get there. Michigan needing a win versus either Northwestern or Ohio State to get to bowl eligibility. It's in Ann Arbor. It's at 3:30. Michigan's favored by about 11 points. This should be the one, right, Andy? This should be the one that gets us across the hump and into bowl eligibility.
Absolutely. I mean, this is senior day, celebrating the winningest class in Michigan history. I believe the seniors are 50-8 during their 4 years in Ann Arbor. It's a trophy game. Michigan is 2-0 in trophy games this year, beating Minnesota and Michigan State. The George Jewett Trophy is on the line in this one. And like we talked about on Out of the Blue on Monday night, this is kind of like the first game of 2025. Because it secures that bowl eligibility, gets you those extra practices, gets Bryce Underwood, Babalola, and all those guys into the mix if they early enroll. So it just has consequences that ring out further than just this season.
Yeah, man, it's like it's hard to describe, but it's like getting to that island where you can like refresh your supplies, like you're out at sea, and you're just like, we just need to get to that island and we can refresh, we can get a new mast for the ship, like they do in Master and Commander, a beloved film of ours.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need to pull into a port and like gather yourself, get things figured out, and that's what this game can be, and that's what getting to bowl eligibility can be for this program. They need that time to reset. They need that time to bring in these other players, get them into the building and see what way they have there. And maybe Jaden Davis gets involved in a bowl game. I don't think at this point that's probably the move now with Underwood coming. But nonetheless, it's going to be extremely important for this team. And David Braun, they're going to be scrapping for their lives. Northwestern, we saw him last year, just like a very impressive season from him. This year we knew was going to be a down year for him. But they're still like scrapping. They're not like a laughing stock of a program, which they easily could have been with the amount that they lost and the schedule they have this year.
Yeah, it's the AJ Henning, Josh Preeb trade game.
Yes. Yeah. Who would you take in that trade-off? Probably still take Preeb because no need for a wide receiver when you can't throw it to him.
Exactly. Yeah, man, they're built very similar to Michigan in terms of like their offensive struggles and defensive competency. Like just all over the place. Like defensively, they've been bit with some injuries, offensively as well with the quarterback position early on in the year. But you look at these teams and it's like, okay, it kind of seems like Northwestern is just like a few degrees lower than Michigan, but it's still kind of a mirror image.
Yeah. Michigan comes in with the number 10 rush defense, Northwestern, the number 27 rushing defense. They want to run the ball, but lately it's been difficult and they can't pass. So they're almost mirror images of each other. Just Michigan has all Americans and NFL guys on the defense. They do not. You look at the quarterback comparison. Choose your fighter as far as middling quarterbacks. If you want Jack Lausch, I'll give you 1,300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. If you're a Davis Warren man, how about 870 yards, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions? So no matter how you slice it, not exactly going to be Brady versus Manning 2006 AFC Championship out there.
No. One thing I will say about Lausch, though, is although he has some ways to go passing the football, dangerous with his legs. So be on the lookout for that one. He has 226 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the season. And we saw it doesn't take a Michael Vick of a quarterback or a Lamar Jackson to hurt this team, because that's exactly what Luke Altmaier did at Illinois. That's why the rushing numbers were so skewed. So that'll be probably a big focal point for this Michigan defense, because the running back alone is not going to get the job done.
No. And last week against Ohio State, they struggled to run the ball. Not going to be afraid of Jack Lausch when his rushing totals against Ohio State, 14 carries for 8 yards. That's good for 0.6 per carry. So, not exactly Michael Vick. out there. They struggled, and they've struggled to move the ball against the better teams, and that's what's been consistent with Northwestern. Against lesser teams, they're able to establish something. They can get the run, play a little balance, which they like to do, very similar to like what Michigan wants to do. But when they can't run and they're forcing Jack Lausch to I don't think they want him taken off 10 times and throwing the ball 25 times. That's putting a lot on Jack Lausch, but they'll probably have to. Whereas Michigan can hopefully get some semblance of a running game going against this pretty good rushing defense in Northwestern.
Yeah, their defense is interesting. I mean, they've been without star linebacker and captain Xander Mueller for about a month now. Still hoping for him to return this season. Kind of sounds similar to Will Johnson, but I don't know if we'll see him this weekend. Their defensive front is solid despite not having a true star. Aiden Hubbard leads them with 4 sacks. Secondary is the opposite. They have a star in Taron Johnson, who leads the Big Ten in passes defended and pass breakups and has 2 picks on the year. However, outside of Johnson, that unit is bad, replacing 3 of 4 from last year. However, talking about Johnson, though, keep your eyes peeled if he enters the transfer portal this offseason.
I mean, I wouldn't mind taking Johnson for a Johnson. Will Johnson goes to the NFL after playing for 3 games this season.
Jared doses Johnson's.
I know. That's what I always say. And we bring in Taron Johnson. Yeah, I like where your head's at there. Look, Taron Johnson's not going to matter in this game because we're not throwing to wide receivers. No. They'll get 3 receptions for 13 yards, and then the rest will be to Colston Loveland. And it's got to be a Donovan game. It's got to be a Kalel Mullings game. I'm kind of like worried about Kalel Mullings long term. I'm wondering if it's a Ben Hall game, actually. Or Jordan Marshall. I would love
Micah Capana.
Micah Capana, a guy that, now we're starting to bring into the mix here. But yeah, I have to imagine Michigan, with only 2 more opportunities, would love to get a running game established here.
I think so. It's kind of like the way I view this game is it's a sharpener for Ohio State, a sharpener for your identity and to get things right. Like over the bye week, obviously Michigan was hitting the recruiting trail hard, as we covered in the front ad nauseum. But now it's like, okay, got to get back to pounding the rock, back to hard play action, kind of shore up some of the offensive line. Let's get back to who you are, especially before the biggest game of the season.
Absolutely. I want to get to some mailbag questions before we get out of here. So let's get to predictions and players of the game. Who you got, sir?
No. Who do you got? You go first.
What a gentleman. What a guy. Look, in this one, I think that they want to run the ball, aren't going to be able to. So you got to look to Graham and Grant there. I picked Barham last week, who's also been excellent in run defense here. So I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. I'm gonna give you some opportunities to shine here. I'm gonna go with my guy Brandon Hillman. I'm going with Brandon Hillman. Look, I mean, you hit like that, you take 2 players out of the game with your physical nature. Like, I'm on your team now. Like, I know you're on our team, but now I'm on yours, and I got your back. I'm excited about Brandon Hillman. So I think Brandon Hillman gets a turnover this game.
I love that. Kind of to echo that a little bit. What's funny is the first name I had written down for my defensive player of the game, Brandon Hillman. So I'll switch it up a little bit to go to a player we've talked about a little bit, but like
I tried to go deep into the bag so you could have like a Mason Graham.
I know. I'm going a little different though. I'm going with a guy, especially against a team that wants to run the ball, could be involved in stopping the quarterback run. Going with Ernest Hausman, who has been outstanding post the Texas game. Like, has just been only ascending. He and Barham really have a good chemistry together. A lot of just yin and yang to their games and each balance each other out. So I love what they're bringing to the table. So I'm going to go with Hausman on defense.
I like that a lot. On offense, we kind of already talked about what we would like to see. I think that I would love to see a great Michigan running performance here. I mean, we know what Davis Warren is. Davis Warren isn't going to be the starting quarterback next year. There's no reason at this point to we got to get Davis Warren into a rhythm. Stop. It's over. We had our chance. We're 5-5. Go get the win. Go establish your identity, and let's get ready for next year. So I think Josh Preeb and Miles Hinton. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to take the 2-man tandem, the best 2 offensive linemen that we've had. I think this is going to be a good offensive line day, and I'm going to take the best 2. Preeb, a little revenge, but old team grudge match kind of thing going on. So I'll cheat a little bit and take those 2.
I like that. 2 keys for me on offense. 1, start fast. Coming out of the first bye week of the season against Illinois, this team was very sloppy. Just there's no reason to have a dogfight if you don't have to. Just get out ahead and then just start working it from there. Number 2, build confidence. The goal for this game offensively for every play should just be 3 to 5 yards. Just kind of build that competency, build that consistency, and use that as momentum for a unit looking for an identity and just a little bit of confidence heading into Ohio State. My player of the game, he's been so close. We've talked about it over and over again. Donovan Edwards, he's going to break one. It's time. He's going to do it. This is the team that he can do it against. I know the run defense is what it is, but a lot of times he's been one-on-one with a secondary defender, and against Northwesterns, I think he finally takes it to the house.
Man, I've been picking him like the last couple weeks. I'm like, I see it, and wanted to go there again, but wanted to mix it up. It's a great pick. Donovan, I know, like a little maligned this season with a bad fumble, 2 bad fumbles.
2 bad fumbles.
In really costly moments, but like what he's meant off the field and like still the best at seeing holes and exploding through that hole that we have on the roster. Like, I'm sorry, Kalel Mullings is kind of falling off a cliff. So yeah, I'm fully with you there. Dono will stay in our hearts, I think, at least on this podcast. That's going to be a true Michigan man, one that we always celebrate here, even if this season wasn't quite what we were expecting. So that's a great pick. As far as predictions, man, I'll keep this one pretty simple. I think it's going to be kind of ugly, kind of gross to watch, but what Michigan does, we do better than what Northwestern does. I think our defense outweighs their defense. It's going to be very difficult for them to score. I got it 21-9. With or without Will Johnson, who it sounds like he's out again, which means probably no Will Johnson for Ohio State, which big bummer for one of my favorite players coming into this season. But Michigan gets it done, improves to 6-5.
I'm never going to say a game is going to be ugly and gross this season when it results in a Michigan win, because there have been so few. I don't care if it's a snowball fight and the first to 3 wins. As long as it's a win in Michigan's favor, I'm going to say it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Very similar to you. I think Michigan takes this one 24-13. I think it could be a game where it's like 24-6, and then Northwestern adds some points in garbage time. But Michigan's not losing on senior day. They're going to take care of business. They're going to be bowl eligible, and they're going to continue on that foundation from the Bryce Underwood commitment for next season.
Absolutely. And then that'll take us to the Ohio State game. We will be in person for that game.
Next Friday, our 6-pack. We won't be on Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. Tune in on Friday.
We'll have that time for you. I imagine 7:30 Eastern time. That'll be a good one. The first in-person Maize and Brew 6-pack. I'm looking forward to that one. Before we get out of here, we did have a couple mailbag questions. Wanted to hit on them. One from Philip asked, where does "We Are Righteous Men" come from? That would be the coming back from the break. Like good directors, we don't steal things, we pay homage. And that's like a combination of a video that I sent Andy one time and somebody quoting the Bible in a movie. But I can't recall the movie. So that's where most of my ideas come from. They're combinations of things that I see.
Combinations of the Bible and movies.
It's basically it. It's basically my whole personality. And then the next, a lot of questions here from Patrick here. Let's go here with this one, because I like this one. Quoting something that we talk about on the podcast, the growth pattern from Joel Klatt. First, you lose big before you can start winning. Then you lose small. Then you win small. Does that fall into the, do we fall into that growth pattern under Sharon Moore?
I don't see why not.
But do you see it right now?
Yeah. I mean, look at Indiana. That was losing small. And you look at Texas, that was losing big. Oregon, it's a chance to cut it to 2 possessions until Kirk Campbell runs a wide receiver reverse pass. And then against Indiana, they have it down to 1 possession late the entire fourth quarter. Like, I think that is the definition of losing small. You can track the progression.
Okay. I'll push back a little bit, because I think that the Indiana game was very winnable. Very winnable, and I felt like we gave that one up. And whilst we did lose small, should they have been favored in that? Like, shouldn't Michigan have found a way to pull that one out? Like, shouldn't we have been able to out-talent that one? I don't know. Like, I'm not going to retract everything that we said in last week's pod, where that was the first time you and I showed real concern. So yeah. I'm not going to say things are trending up after the first game where I was like, ooh, I've got some warning lights flashing.
I think holding an offense that averages 47 points and 476 yards to
That just Wink
18.
Martindale and Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and all
It's
the
part of
personnel
it.
we got.
It's part of it, but that's part of the team. So I think that part's trending upward. Now it's like, can we just get a little bit of the run going, a little bit of this, especially compared to this defense that was shredded like Swiss cheese in the second half against Minnesota. So I think it's going up.
What was the 2014 Michigan defense ranked? They were pretty good.
They were pretty good.
A pretty good defense the entirety of Hoke's tenure. So I think that unit can almost like operate separately. Like, I mean, you can just kind of put a good defensive coordinator in there, especially if you're an offensive guy, and be like, I'm not touching that. So I don't know that Sharon Moore gets much credit for the defense. I'm sorry.
I mean, he's the head coach of the team. Does the head coach not get credit? He made the hire.
He did, but I mean that hire was the result of things that had happened long before him. He didn't make the move to the John Harbaugh system and bring all those guys in. I think he was kind of just like, this is what's been working.
So does he
not
get credit for anybody affiliated with the Harbaugh system?
That's a good question. It's a fair question. No, he gets some credit. I mean, you get some credit for it, but it would be like being a disciple of Martin Scorsese and just being like, yeah, I think I'm going to bring in Robert De Niro. That guy, look, he's got quite a reputation. Like Wink Martindale's reputation is bigger than Sharon Moore's. He's got a way better CV.
A lot of people didn't like him though, especially early in the year.
Yeah. Look, if your wife says I need to see the offensive line trending up a little bit more before I can say things are trending up, you want to keep a happy household, you better agree because she's right.
Offensive line's a fair point. That's what I was waiting for you to push back on. Yeah, I mean, you could say parts of this team other parts are lagging behind, but I think you're going to see more upward momentum, especially with the turnover on the coaching staff that is inevitable with the Bryce Underwood commitment.
Yep, I'm with you. Real quick before we get out of here, got a basketball question from Bradley. Michigan basketball over under 15 turnovers in the next upcoming game. Turnovers have been a problem.
They're playing right now, aren't they? Playing Tarleton?
Oh, yeah, it is Tarleton.
I don't want to look it up. So because it's Tarleton, I'm going to say under. Say under.
Tarleton. I'll pull it up right now. I'm going to say under as well because Tarleton surely is like one of the made-up schools that Hogwarts had to play in the Tri-Wizard Cup. That's not a real school.
It definitely sounds like they battled Beaubaton or at least rivals or something, right? Durmstrang, that was the other one.
Yeah, just below Durmstrang. I love that you remember the name of the fake schools in Harry Potter.
Do we have any more mailbag questions?
No, that was pretty much it this week, but you can always reach out to us, ootbsports23@gmail.com, and we are happy to answer those. Look,
best way to get a hold of us.
Yeah, it is, honestly, because I'm pretty off Twitter now and Facebook and all that stuff.
I just live in the woods.
Yeah.
This isn't even my house.
Be crapping in a bucket. Tarleton has more turnovers per game than Michigan, so there's something. I mean, I don't know.
If we lose to Tarleton, I'm going to change my tune on Dusty May. Let me tell you that much.
I'll tell you, I'll change my name to Tarleton if we lose to Tarleton. It's ridiculous. All right, that is going to do it for us. We will be back next Tuesday on Out of the Blue. Make sure that you check that out. Really excited for your breakdown of Bryce Underwood. That'll be coming on maizeandbrew.com. Make sure you check that out. If you want to know what we're getting in a quarterback, that's the place. Appreciate y'all, Olivia, Bradley, Josh, Tyterion, Yankee, all of y'all in the comments and joining us. I think this is an important
coming along now. I like this.
I know. I like it. Invite a friend. Bring a friend. Take your shirts off. Come on, have some fun.
Don't
tempt me. Not you, Andy. But we are going to, this is a good enough and important enough discussion. I'm going to go ahead and edit this, get this up for podcasts. So, but still check us out on YouTube when we go live. We will let you know when we're doing that. Anything else from you, my friend?
No, man. Can't wait to see you next week and do this in person.
Let's do it. We're going to solve all of Michigan's problems in a hot tub under a 30 rack of Rolling Rock. We got this. We will be back next Tuesday. I'm Jared. That's Andy. We'd like to remind you that wherever you go, go blue.